want you to do for me?
What?
Come here.
What?
Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this! Fakes and Embiid down the lane. Backing in against Irving. 5 to shoot. Lost the ball. Picks it back up. Jump shot. It's good. Butler drills it with 4.7 remaining. And the Sixers go up by 5. Center field. This ball is out of here. Man stares with a 2-run pitch hit home plate. Backing in. Nice fake off to a ball by Embiid. Wow. Needs to reach a Kobe Bryant. Oh! With a left-handed sledgehammer. Gets it away. It's a knuckle. Jackson takes it at the 35. Picks it up. Looks for running room. He's at the 40. He's at the 45. Puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
Welcome back to episode number 4. We're scoring with Santiago and Jones on this chilly Saturday morning here on September 19th. It's almost hoodie weather and sweatpants weather.
Yeah, it's weird how fast the weather is changing. Like last week, it was literally 80 degrees here, and now it's 50. I mean, that's just typical New Jersey weather at this point. I guess it is September, so it's turning into some fall weather. It's nice out there. I think sometimes in March, we're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing weather. But after having like a 90-degree summer, it's pretty cold to me.
You see the leaves changing, you got football going, college football starting, basketball still rolling, hockey's finishing up, baseball is going. Busy sports semester and a better school semester for you. How's school going so far?
It's a little bit stressful, I'm not going to lie. I mean, having everything online, I guess you're just not used to it because I don't like online classes. I personally love being in person, but I do understand why they're doing it to keep everybody safe. So it hasn't been bad. We're able to go at the radio station. Shout out to Rowan Radio. So that's a lot of fun. But having classes online is definitely tough. I just think it's like kind of an adapting thing into the world we're in right now. So I'm not used to it yet, but it's a growing process.
Yeah, be careful of that COVID out there. I'm hearing some numbers around Rowan. You know, I'm not on Rowan campus anymore, but, you know, I'm still living by Rowan, and I have one roommate that is still going to Rowan for his labs. So make sure to sanitize, wash your hands, and wear your face masks, people. Let's be safe. But let's get rolling with sports. Where do you want to go? You want to go to the Clippers losing, or you want to go with the Eagles losing?
I mean, they're both very disappointing. I guess we can start with the NFL just because we are in the NBA playoffs, but the NFL kind of started week 1, and going into the game against the Washington football team, you kind of think, oh, this is a definite win. They have Dwayne Haskins as their quarterback. Come on now. They don't have a very good offense. Their defensive line is pretty good.
Don't sleep on Haskins. Don't sleep on him.
Okay, he was not even good in that game, though. I mean, it really was
game manager. That's all you need.
Yeah, I know. And it was really the football team's defense, but it's really disappointing how the Eagles had that 17-0 lead in the first half. I was like, oh, wow, this team looks really good. And then all of a sudden they lose. And I'm sitting here like, Carson Wentz got sacked 8 times. 8 times. I know the offensive line is terrible. We started a 4th-round rookie because everybody is injured. but Carson's got to get rid of the ball a little bit sooner. Every time he ducked, it looked like his neck was about to snap off. It got me really nervous, and I just think he needs to get rid of the ball a lot sooner. Now, granted, the Eagles' offensive line is terrible. That's on Howie for drafting a quarterback in the second round and not giving your current quarterback, who you just signed to a huge deal, any help. But that's besides the point. I just think the Eagles, they're very out of sorts right now. They don't have a lot of help. I think a lot of people, they say they're coming back. Lane Johnson says he'll be ready on Sunday, but he also said that last week. So who really knows? This team just isn't healthy, and I feel like it's a repeat of 2019 with all these injuries.
Honestly, it's not even a repeat of the 2019 season. I think it's honestly been repeating since the 2017 season, since the Super Bowl run. It seems that every position, someone key or someone that's a role player that tends to get a lot of snaps is getting hurt. As you mentioned, the O-line was beat up pretty bad. They gave up 8 sacks. But Wentz was holding on to the ball, trying to extend plays, and sometimes he just needs to throw the ball away. The one pick he threw towards Hightower, that was just a bad ball. I understand that Hightower could fight for the ball, but legit, Wentz threw it behind his shoulder, and then he went to reach back for it, and the corner just went up and snatched it right out of Hightower's hands. I've seen a few balls that were high by Wentz, and then the running game was irrelevant without Miles Sanders, so of course they're not going to do anything if they can't run the ball. Zach Ertz only had 3 catches for 16 yards and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert looked pretty good. Jalen Reagor had a few drops. I think he muffed his first punt, but I think they got the ball back. Defense, they were up 17-0. I also put blame on the defense because you can bend, but you can't break, and they were breaking down. And honestly, once Washington kind of got in the red zone, they were able to run the ball. So that kind of scares me against this Rams team this week because you saw what they did to Dallas with Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown. They were running all over Dallas, and we thought Dallas's defensive line was going to be able to outdo the Rams O-line. But the Rams O-line is honestly kind of slept on because I was watching the game Sunday night, and they're doing a lot of stretches and they're doing a lot of downhill running, not kind of like what they were doing with Todd Gurley. And they have 2 backs now. It's not just Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley goes to Atlanta. Now it's Malcolm Brown, the power back, where Akers is a speed back.
As Jason Kelce said for the Eagles, it's the whole team, literally. So I saw some good things. I will kind of comment on those. Jalen Reagor had one really nice catch. He beat out Ronald Darby. That's where you really saw the speed from Reagor, and I think that's the reason why the Eagles picked him. Another thing I saw, though, Zach Ertz, he got hit once, and he looked like he was shaken out for the rest of the game. That was very worrisome. Deshaun Jackson was just laying on the field after one play. He tweeted and said he was good. He's not injured. It didn't look promising, though. I agree with you. I mean, I think Zach Ertz was kind of invisible in that game, and this year is his biggest year, I think, for him because he wants that contract. The Eagles are not on the same page as him, so he really has to prove to get that money and to stay on this team. Saw good things from Dallas Goedert. Now, going to the other team in the division, the Dallas Cowboys, I thought that was a very good game. Now, we can talk about that offensive pass interference call that I thought was garbage, in my opinion. I don't know. We can kind of talk about that one a little bit. But I saw a lot of good things out of the Rams. I thought that Dallas was definitely going to win. I think it was a good game. It was week 1, so it was a little bit sloppy. But the LA Rams looked pretty good, I'm not going to lie.
Well, we both went with Dallas for week 1, and we were looking at Dallas' offense. We were looking at offense. But what I saw was the Rams were torching that defense. Yeah, they may not put up 45 points, but they got a lot of big plays. They just had highlights here back on NFL Network about it, and you've seen a lot of runs for either over 10 yards, and you see a lot of pass plays for over 15. So I felt like the Rams kind of spaced them out, and Dallas didn't know what to do. We kind of we're wondering about Dallas's defense on the back end. We knew their defensive line was good because if you were watching the game, you saw Alden Smith, who hasn't played a game in 5 years. He got a sack. He looked pretty good. DeMarcus Lawrence said he's healthy. So Dallas's D-line and their linebackers, we know they're good. But Van Der Esch did get hurt. Apparently, he broke his collarbone. He's going to be out for a few weeks. I wonder how many more upper body injuries his body can take because he's had issues with neck. I think he's had issues with concussions and now his collarbone. So it's kind of getting scary for him. And he's a downhill fly, sideline to sideline linebacker. But I was more surprised about how the Rams were overtaking the game more than Dallas. I don't think Dak had the best game, but he was okay, but he didn't have the best game. Zeke looked pretty good, but I felt like they were turning away from Zeke. They were giving him a lot of touches early, but not late. I didn't understand that. I didn't really see a lot out of CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, I mean, I know it was his first game. He had a few explosion games, but Amari Cooper also, he wasn't really out there doing anything. And then, of course, the big play of the game was the offensive PI call. I think it was pass interference. I mean, when you look at it, at real speed, you just see the hands like going at it. But if you look, you do see Gallup extend. It could have been a little bit of flop by Jalen Ramsey. If you get paid $100 million, you might want to flop a little bit.
A little bit. That was a whole acting scene right there.
Hey, he sold it and he got the call and they won the game. That's all that matters. But what I saw Nate Burleson said is you don't want to extend your arm out. You want to give a chicken wing and you can just knock the corner off his route a little bit. I guess that's just a veteran that's going to be able to, veteran analyst now because he doesn't play anymore, able to preach to the younger guys about it. So it was very back and forth, but of course, for us Eagles fans, we're happy that Dallas lost.
A Dallas loss is an Eagles win. Now, on that offensive PI call, he did extend his arm a little bit. I didn't really see much of a push-off. I know once you do extend, they kind of tend to throw that flag. I think it can go either way. I probably wouldn't have thrown that in that situation, but nevertheless, the Cowboys lost, so that's a good thing. Also, kind of touching on their injuries, Blake Jarwin, their starting tight end, is done for the season. So that's a big loss for Dallas, and I think that we have to realize, looking through the NFL Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, there were a lot of injuries. Does that have to do with no preseason? Because these guys never played at game speed. Not that they play in preseason a lot, but that gives them the chance to kind of come together, to play at that momentum, to play at that speed. And this season, they didn't get it. They've been trying to get away from preseason for years. This year they did, whether that was because of COVID or not. But you have to look at it, is that the reason all these athletes are getting injured? Is it really worth not having a preseason and then losing, for example, your starting tight end in week 1?
We just talked about that, honestly, before the game. I think right before Texans Chiefs, we were talking about injuries, and I even said, and you said it too, there's going to be injuries that are going to happen early because there is no preseason. You have George Kittle who's out, you have Kenny Galladay that's out, Michael Thomas is going to be out, you have some defenders on Kansas City who is banged up that are on the D lineman. You have all these injuries. Jamison Crowder for the Jets is going to be out with a hamstring. The Cincinnati tight end, CJ Uzama, I can never pronounce his name, I'm so sorry. He tore his Achilles. So, and then you just mentioned Blake Jarwin. You have all these injuries that are going to happen. So it's really concerning because you don't know how much depth these teams have because, once again, we have no preseason. But they're going to have to roll with the punches. And I think, honestly, you're kind of going to have to, quote, load manage guys this season because I think it's very smart. Not because I have him in fantasy football, but George Kittle. Do you really want to play George Kittle against the New York Jets with a sprained knee? Do you really want to try to push him out there? No, you don't, because you should be able to beat the Jets without him. You know what I mean? Keep your eye out on Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed's making a comeback and apparently had a couple catches, so he might be able to fill in when he's healthy and he's not dealing with concussions. Jordan Reed is a solid pickup for them. So we have to keep an eye out, and of course we all know about the Eagles' injuries, and then other injuries for my other favorite team, Pittsburgh. James Conner, he was supposed to have this great year. He's been banged up for the past 3-4 years, and then he's like, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go. Like every NFL player says, I'm in the best shape of my life, and what happens, they get banged up and they're hurt.
It's definitely a really weird year just in general, but looking through the NFL and having these injuries, now the 49ers, I think like you said before, are very lucky that they are playing the Jets this week because if they lose to the Jets, that's really questionable for them. A lot of injuries, but it was really good to have football back week 1 finally. And, some surprises for me. The Bucs did not look good. Now, I didn't pick them winning anyway, but I did not think the Saints were going to blow them out like that. I was very surprised. I also think that Mike Evans is a little bit banged up. He was battling that hamstring injury. It's Tom Brady's first time.
They shouldn't even played Mike Evans, honestly. No. It's the first week of the season. They shouldn't even played him. He ended last year with a hamstring injury, and he's playing against Marshawn Lattimore, it's been a battle. They were fighting on the field again this week. You know what I mean? They shouldn't even have played him. I think they should have just sat him. But speaking of the Bucs and injuries, it doesn't look like Chris Godwin's playing this week because he was concussed in practice.
I did see that, and that's a good point to bring up. I mean,
that was Brady's favorite wide receiver, on Sunday.
Right, and they play the Panthers this weekend, so they should win that game. But if Brady doesn't have these weapons, I saw somebody tweet that, he's a system QB. I think that was kind of more as a joke because, Tom Brady is older now. He's in a completely different system. He had so much success with the Patriots. Whether that was because of Bill Belichick, I guess we'll find out. But I also think we have to give this Tampa Bay team time because they're very new. Tom Brady's never played under a different coach. So you have to give them, I think, a few weeks to really get into the season and get with the team. Now, I think this Panthers game is going to be a really good one for them and for them to actually showcase what they can do. Also, another surprise is the Arizona Cardinals beat the 49ers. And I thought that was going to be a close game. I was excited to see Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, but they beat the 49ers. I mean, that's a pretty good week one if I'm an Arizona fan.
I wanted to pick I wanted to pick the Cardinals so bad because they're one of my sleeper teams. But I was like, 49ers at home with that defense, I think they can get it. Cardinals, they haven't had any games, obviously, so they might be a little off trying to get the chemistry between Murray and D-Hop. No, D-Hop went out there, had like 14 catches, over 100 yards on a touchdown. And then also, they're very smart. Did you see the play with Larry Fitzgerald with the time running down before, I believe it was halftime? Murray completed a pass. And then, of course, the 49ers are trying to stay on the wide receiver so he can't give the ball to the ref to kind of run some clock down. But no, Larry Fitzgerald takes the ball from his teammate, runs it all the way to the middle of the field, gives it to the center. The center gives the ball to the ref. The ref spots the ball, hike it, spike it, and they get a field goal before half. And it's like, if they're going to play that smart, which is honestly the first time I've ever seen a play like that, that is so smart because you know how these defenders are going to try and lay on top of guys, try to stall some time. But no, Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, yeah, he's a vet. He's a Hall of Famer, I understand. But I just never seen that. And I was so stunned. And another surprise was honestly the New England Patriots. Because, yes, they're playing the Miami Dolphins. You expected them to win because, why? They're the New England Patriots. But you wanted to see how Cam looked. He didn't really throw the ball that much. But from what I saw, they were doing a lot of short passes. Kind of like what they were doing with Brady. He was about 1, 2, 3 reads, giving out to James White. 1, 2, 3 reads, check down the Edelman. Very dink and dunk, which is fine. And then what they were doing power sweep plays with him, and he was scoring touchdowns. And one play, he didn't even get touched. He just basically walked in the end zone. And then the next play that he did get hit on, which I'm not a big fan of that, which is I feel like he's still going to do because he's so big and he's Cam Newton, is that he was diving toward the pylon. Yes, he scored, but, with all the past injuries for him, you kind of don't want him to do that. But their defense was also playing well, also after having so many opt-outs because of COVID.
I think that the Patriots, their real testament for this season is going to be this game Sunday night. They're playing the Seattle Seahawks, who is a very good team. They improved so much defensively this year with Jamal Adams. They have Russell Wilson. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Bill Belichick and Cam Newton go into this week. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think the Patriots can really show that the team that they're going to be on this game. Now, it is only week 2. Like we've talked about a million times, there's no preseason. The athletes are still trying to get into it. But I think that, if the Patriots want to be talked about like they have been for so many years, they have a different quarterback now, beating Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks is pretty good.
It's a tough task going against, what would be the 12th man out in Seattle. I don't know if they're having any fans or not, but Seattle alone is a very hard place to play anyway. And you're playing one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league right now who's very underrated. I don't understand why. Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson, that team is stacked. You picked them to possibly make a Super Bowl run. And after week 1, I'm with you because I know it's only the Atlanta Falcons, but they lit the Falcons up. That offense looks so good. And he only had like 4 incomplete passes during week 1 with no preseason. Russell Wilson's a very, very great professional quarterback. He knows what he's doing out there. So I'm excited for that game. I'm excited to see how the Bears look, honestly, because they just skidded by the Detroit Lions, even though the Detroit Lions could have won. Trubisky, once again, did not look good. There's people in the background probably looking for Nick Foles. You have this controversial Allen Robinson who wants a contract, who doesn't want a contract, who wants to get traded, who doesn't want to get traded. So it's like the Bears, who honestly still have a great defense, but I feel like their offense still isn't clicking. And once again, we all know they passed up Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. So what's your thoughts on the Bears after they just get by the Detroit Lions?
I just think it's the same Bears that we've been seeing for the past 2 years. I was actually surprised that they beat the Lions. I thought that they were going to lose that game. This week, they don't really have another hard matchup. They have the New York Giants. Now, I think the Bears in this situation are favorited just because of that defensive line. I think that it's going to be very hard for Saquon Barkley to get through them. We can talk about this a little bit more later when we go to our predictions, but, Saquon did not have a good week 1, and I really don't think that he's going to have a good week 2 with how good the Bears' defensive line is. Now, you have Mitch Trubisky on the offensive side who isn't very good, and I don't know if he's going to be slinging out during this whole entire Giants game, if he's going to be throwing the ball, if he's going to be trying to hand off the ball. I don't know. I mean, Daniel Jones, he's a pretty decent quarterback. He's shown some hot flashes. He's shown some good stuff lately, so maybe this is the game where he actually shows up because I think Saquon's going to be very shut down. I do have the Bears in this one, though, just because I think that, the defensive line of Chicago is very good, and I don't think that the Giants are going to be able to get through that.
Now, I saw Tiki Barber had some comments about Saquon Barkley talking about how he's not a blocker and how he's basically not, honestly, one of these top backs in the league. I don't know how he can say that because, they're not being able to give him run blocking. It kind of goes back to Barry Sanders all the way back in the 90s where, he's so good. We know he's so good, but yet every time he gets the ball, he's getting hit in the backfield. I think Tiki Barber is honestly, sometimes he is a little over dramatic with the Giants. You know what I mean? He's had comments about Eli Manning in the past about how he's not a quarterback and all that and blah, 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 blah. Danny Dimes, he looked okay against that tough Steelers defense. I was surprised about Darius Slayton. I honestly think he might be the number 1. He had over 8 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown. His touchdown won me the game in fantasy, so thank you. That last minute touchdown. So the Giants, I feel like, once again, they're one of the bottom feeder teams. They played a tough Pittsburgh team. They'll probably lose against the Bears. We'll get into our predictions later. But Saquon Barkley, you think they made a mistake by taking him so early, or you just feel like it's just a bad offensive line, he's not being able to do anything? Because his rookie year is so good. He was phenomenal, and last year he was banged up and they had no run blocking, and then this year kind of looks like the same thing.
I was just about to make that point that his rookie year, he was phenomenal. He won Rookie of the Year that year. So I think that you have to look at Saquon and you have to look at the system that he's in. I mean, the Giants' offensive line is absolutely terrible. I think if you put him on a team, for example, if the Cowboys didn't have Zeke, Saquon would, I really think, thrive in that system. I think he would thrive in a good offense. He's doing what he can do. I think a lot for him is going to be the mental game. Like you said, last year he was a little bit banged up. He came back. He wasn't as good as the year before. He was the talk of the town the year previous, but last year he wasn't. And I think for him right now, he just needs to get back to the way he was rookie year, because once he's on, he could be their whole offense. It was unstoppable that season. So he just needs to get back to that. I think this isn't the week, though, for him to get there, just because you're playing a very good defensive line in the Chicago Bears. But it's going to be an interesting game. I'm actually excited to see this one just because it's not two great teams, but it's kind of like the lesser of two bad teams in a way. Mm-hmm. Kind of talking about week 2 as that game is this week. We already watched Thursday night's game against the Browns and the Bengals. What are your thoughts on that one? Browns won 35-30.
The game wasn't as close as it really was. The Browns were really leading the rest of the game, but Kevin Stefanski, big shout out to you, because you have all these weapons to where you want to air it out with Baker Mayfield, but Baker Mayfield is not a quarterback you can drop back and throw the ball 50 times, even though you have Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb in the backfield, Kareem Hunt, Austin Hooper, David Njoku, even though he just got hurt. You have all these weapons, and they built the offensive line. So like we said before, this is a make or break a year for Baker Mayfield, because they have to decide if they want to pick up his 5th-year option. They were running the ball. And you're from Cleveland, so it fits your memo. You're a blue-collar town, and yes, you have the star in Odell Beckham Jr., who hasn't been the star that he was with the New York Giants, but he has been able to, mandate what he's been able to do. He looked very good in his past game. The game before they played the tough Baltimore team, no one expected the Browns to beat Baltimore, even come close to them. But I was actually kind of surprised. I kind of liked watching the Browns play football. I haven't said that in many, many years because they've been so bad. But, Baker Mayfield, they get a deep ball to Odell. But Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they might be the best 1-2 punch they got. The defensive line for the Browns were very, very good. Myles Garrett was getting rushed, number 97. I don't know your name. I'm sorry for the Browns. But he was applying a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow. Excited to see him play. It looks like he's finally starting to get the game down and his speed down a little bit. He still has a few mistakes. He had a sack fumble. He was holding the ball on a little too late. But some of his throws, he was looking pretty well. And he was also getting out of a lot of sacks. A lot of the pressure that was coming into his face, he was able to either roll out or step through. He had some receivers that weren't able to catch the ball. Tyler Boyd dropped an easy touchdown. That drive ended up in a field goal. So honestly, if Tyler Boyd catches that ball right there, they do possibly win the game. AJ Green, I am surprised that AJ Green is looking as good as he does. He's been hurt for the past 2 years. Joe Burrow, honestly, keep it up. I'm surprised that you're able to keep in games. It's not like he's going out there and getting blown out by 40 points. He's losing by a combined 8 points in the past 2 games. So, and he's very hard on himself. I remember week 1, they said, Joe Burrow, can you grade yourself? He said D-. He said, if I make a few more plays, we beat the Chargers. I like that. I like his confidence. So I think, honestly, probably next week, he may get his first win.
Yeah, and this game I really enjoyed watching as well. Nick Chubb was just running through the Cincinnati Bengals, and it was good to see kind of the Browns get that offense going. Now, Baker Mayfield didn't really wow me in that game, but I think that's also because they went to the running game a lot. Go to what works. That's what the Browns need to do to win, and that's what they did. Now, Joe Burrow, I think this Bengals team, he didn't go on a team like the New England Patriots, for example. So I think this team is going to be good in a few years with him. I think once they get him a little bit more pieces, then he'll be good. He's a rookie. It's his first season. I'm liking what I see from him. Like you said, a lot of mistakes, but he's a rookie quarterback. Even quarterbacks that aren't rookies, for example, Carson Wentz, are making those same mistakes. It's a weird year. It's a tough season with no preseason this year. And I just think that, the Bengals, they could be a good team in a few years if they really get the pieces for Joe Burrow. I do like his confidence. I do like that he's hard on himself, but I also think he has to prove it to me. He says he grades himself a D-, then go out next week and win. And I think that he's going to start doing that. I don't see Cincinnati being a playoff team this year, but I think we're going to see some good things from Joe Burrow this season.
See, the Cincinnati Bengals have similarities with the Philadelphia Eagles, as in they have these these skill guys, but they don't have the offensive line to protect the vital asset, which is your quarterback. You've seen Burrow just running for his life the same way Wentz is running for his life. And yes, they both can get out of the pocket and make plays down the field and extend the play. But, it's nice when you can just go to a 3-step drop and just be able to throw the ball without someone ramming into your face because your right tackle doesn't know how to block. So I look at the Cincinnati Bengals the same way you do, as in they can be a playoff team in a couple of years. I think they already have the skill positions. I think they just need to build up their offensive line to protect Joe Burrow.
And that's something that you're really going to, I think, have to go to the draft for or maybe trade for. But you really do need a good offensive line, because if you have a quarterback that likes to run and likes to hold on to the ball like Joe Burrow kind of does, you need somebody to protect him. They don't have that right now. And with the Philadelphia Eagles, it's kind of the same thing. Carson likes to run with the ball. Their offensive line is trash. They were very disappointing. Another disappointing team in a different league. I think probably the most disappointment we've seen this season, and that's coming from Sixers fans, is the LA Clippers.
Oh my God, I'm so happy I can rant about this right now on this podcast, because they were clapping so hard for the title of Los Angeles. Oh, who's going to be? Is it going to be the Lakers? Is it going to be the Clippers? Pat Bev, you all bark, no bite. You were talking all that talk on the side to Dame Lillard. You were talking all that talk in Los Angeles, after game 1, saying, where y'all at, where y'all at? No, where are you at? Oh, you're going home. That's what you're doing. Because all you do is you play defense. You don't do anything on the offensive end. I told you before, never really been a big Paul George guy. I don't think he is ever probably going to be meant for the playoffs. I don't understand how you can be one of the lead focal points on this team. And it's not like he's a bona fide scrub, don't get me wrong. He's an all-star caliber player. But I don't think he's that superstar player that's going to be able to push his team far into the playoffs, for the Clippers, for a franchise that's never been there, the Western Conference Finals. Doc Rivers, once again, he choked. He's the only coach to have a 3-1 lead 3 times and blow it. Kawhi Leonard, I'm not hard on Kawhi, because Kawhi, quote, he can't do it by himself. The Clippers were all about me, except for Kawhi Leonard, except for the little commercial he had when he came to LA saying that's his his town. I feel like that's just his agent getting him to buy into the hype. I don't think really Kawhi is that kind of self-centered kind of person. But the Clippers, yeah, you guys were unanimously picked by thousands, maybe even millions, honestly, of people that know about basketball that are like, yeah, I think the Clippers are going to win the championship. And you were one win away from getting to the Western Conference Final, and you blew it, and you deserve all the heat that you get because you guys were talking all that talk, and you lost.
And I think, I talked about this before. If Kawhi is not on his game, Paul George, from what we've seen on paper and what all the hype was this season, that he should be that guy that kind of takes over. He's that quote-unquote second star. Now,
playoff P.
Right, and it didn't happen. Now, Kawhi Leonard in Game 7 had 14 points. When Kawhi has 14 points, I'm sorry, this Clippers team is not good enough to beat a Nuggets team that's very hot. Jamal Murray, once again, is balling out. 40 points in Game 7. He came to play that game. Now, they moved on to the Western Conference Finals. It'll be interesting to see. We'll get into that a little bit later. But, the Clippers, I think it's very disappointing to see how they lost that lead. They were in Game 6, Game 7, Game 5 with 16-point leads in the fourth quarter and then blew it. I don't really understand, and I think a lot of that has to do with coaching and Doc Rivers. But what is Paul George doing? I mean, you have this guy, you have this two-star duo that everybody was so excited for. Paul George should not show up. Kawhi Leonard, I was very shocked. We saw him last year. Why couldn't he be like that in Game 7 against the Sixers? That's all I want to know. He had to hit that 5-6 bounce to go in to advance, but 14 points, Kawhi. I mean, you're not going to advance if that's all you can do. I think I give props to the Denver Nuggets twice. They came down from 3-1, and now they're in the Western Conference Finals facing my favorite team. Well, not my favorite team, but my favorite to win the NBA Finals and the Los Angeles Lakers. I am very disappointed in the Clippers, honestly. I thought they had a great bench. I thought they had a great structured team, but it just goes to show you can look so good on paper, and it's really about what you do on the court, and the Clippers just did not do that.
And once again, you had, I'm so sorry, Markieff Morris, correct? He's on the Clippers, not Marquise. I always get them so confused.
No, I think, isn't Marcus on the Clippers? Because
Okay.
Wasn't it that whole thing with Luka Doncic where he stepped on his, let me look it up.
Right,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
Markieff is on the Lakers.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I'm going to look it up now, though.
Yeah, you Morris's brothers, shout out Philly for you. You guys confuse me so much. But once again, he was talking all that talk. And then who was he talking to? A bona fide veteran. Not like it was some young guy like Luka or anything that he feel like he can bully him or anything. No, you're talking to Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap is a bona fide veteran. He's not a superstar, but he's very good at what he does. He's down in the paint, back to the basketball player, grabbing rebounds, either defensive or offensive rebounds. And Morris is like, oh, well, you're going blank home. Well, no, you're going home. And that's this sense of entitlement that I don't understand, is that they felt so entitled that they were going to just walk into the finals, and you're going home. I don't understand that one bit. Now, like I said, Paul George, you need to step up. Honestly, I don't even think you're a top 10 player right now in the NBA. You're not. Because it depends on the regular season and the postseason. And every postseason, you go home early. Besides the little run that you had with Indiana, you go home early with either OKC and now the LA Clippers. Lou Will, you were out trying to go have fun at Magic City instead of going back to play basketball. I understand that you went to the funeral. You had to handle some family matters and all that. But I was talking to my friend Christian last night. I was like, Alex Caruso decided to skip his sister's wedding. You know what I mean? Like, he was so bought in, and that's the thing about the Lakers, is that they're so bought in about winning the championship, is that they didn't do anything to cause controversy. You had Montrezl Harrell, who was, calling Luka, names and being pure disrespectful and ignorant. You can say that they made up. I don't like what he said one bit. I thought he should have been suspended for a game. But it's just like the whole sense of entitlement. That's my whole thing about the Clippers, is that they felt so entitled that they were just going to walk into the finals and be the kings of LA and blah, 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 blah. And, well, now you're the kings of the couch and you're sitting watching the LA Lakers play the Denver Nuggets.
And I think it's funny, too, because you have all these personalities. By the way, it is Marcus Morris on the Clippers and then Markieff on the Lakers. But you have all these personalities in Marcus Morris and Pat Bev and Montrezl Harrell. And then you have Kawhi Leonard, who barely cracks a smile. I think it's very funny. I think that team has a lot of butting heads, and it goes to show sometimes you really need people who are all bought in to win.
Yeah.
You can have talent because the Clippers have undeniable talent. But if you don't have guys that are willing to put the work in, if you don't have guys that are willing to show up, kind of compromise for, if Kawhi's having a bad night, I need to set up, a.k.a. Paul George. Kawhi can't always be the guy who has to go 30, 40 a night. The Clippers weren't buying into that, and you could tell blowing 16-point leads against the Denver Nuggets. And I know the Nuggets are hot. I know Jamal Murray has been bowling out. They have Jokic. But you're the LA Clippers. You were supposed to go to the finals. You were supposed to win the finals. You're supposed to be the best team in LA this year. They didn't show it. And, now the best team in LA is in the Western Conference Finals.
Just one more thing is that, we're about to jump into the Lakers, that the Lakers have guys that are buying in. And they're big-name guys. Rondo, Dwight Howard, Jared Dudley, J.R. Smith.
Rondo looked good last night.
All these guys, yes, they look phenomenal. All these guys are like, it's not about me, it's about the team. Where the Clippers are like, me. I gotta do mine. I gotta get mines. I gotta get my points. Why? That's not going to do anything. They honestly lack chemistry. But I'm not giving you chemistry an excuse for why you lost. Like Paul George said, he said, "Oh, we didn't have the chemistry." No. You have what was supposed to be 2 top 10 players in the NBA. A great combo off the bench in Lou Will, Montrezl Harrell. You picked up Reggie Jackson. You picked up the Morris brother. You have Zubac, he may not be the best big, but he's a very solid center. You know what I mean? You have Landry Shamet. You have all these guys, and the number one guy you have is Kawhi Leonard. They were supposed to bring it home, and they're not doing it this year. But them Lakers, the final stat for them last night, the game looked close, but that's just because the Lakers took their guys out and the Denver Nuggets were going on little rolls and whatnot. LeBron James, when you can only need to score 16 points and your team's up by almost 30 points and Anthony Davis has got his foot on the pedal, it's going to be hard to stop him. And Dwight Howard is putting up 13 points, getting 2 blocks. You mentioned Rondo. He passed Michael Jordan on the assists, the playoff assist leaders. So, once again, this team looks very bought in, kind of like the Miami team. Unfortunately, the Miami team looks bought in too, but them Lakers were steamrolling last night, and it didn't have to be on the back of LeBron James.
Now, I really liked what I saw from Rondo last night. A lot of alley-oop passes. I think the combination of him and Dwight Howard, once Davis was on the bench and, LeBron was kind of sitting down because at that point the team was already rolling through the Denver Nuggets. I liked what I saw from Rondo, and I think, Rondo has experience. This is a type of team where you don't always want to have young players, especially when it comes playoff times. Rondo's not the best in the league, but he gives you that experience. He gives you that chemistry. He's a team player. Once again, he's now on top 10 in assist list, past Michael Jordan. So it was good things I saw from Rondo. I've been a fan of him ever since he was on the Celtics. I really like how he plays. Now, I was talking to one of my friends about this last night, and I said there's no shot the Denver Nuggets are beating this LA Lakers team. The Lakers looked phenomenal last night. I also said that when they played the Clippers. So the Denver Nuggets already came down from a 3-1 deficit in the series twice. Won. I don't necessarily see that doing that against the Lakers, but who knows? I mean, this Nuggets team is a huge surprise. I knew they were always good. I mean, you have Jokic, one of the best centers in the league, and Jamal Murray's on fire, but I do think this Lakers team is going to take it. I think they're going to be in the NBA Finals, but you can't count the Nuggets out because they've already shown us twice what they can do.
No, the Nuggets, they keep chipping away. I mean, they came back against the Jazz. They came back against the Clippers. My issue with the Nuggets is that what I had with the Portland Trailblazers is that they've been playing a lot of basketball. And knock on wood, I don't want anyone to get hurt, but I foresee this could be a series where someone major for them could be hurt. Their main issue that I was watching and seeing is that they need a third scorer. It can't just be Murray and Jokic against these Lakers teams. It has to be Michael Porter Jr. or Jeremy Grant. So it has to be someone. Someone has to step up for them. But they were in the game in the beginning. The Lakers started to pull away, but I seen them. They were hitting their shots. They were hitting a lot of threes, a lot of pull-up jumpers. Jamal Murray, once again, looked good. They pulled their starters out in the fourth quarter kind of early. The only issue is this isn't the Clippers and this ain't the Jazz. You know what I mean? It's the LA Lakers, and they have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and I would put money on surely alone that LeBron James would not allow the Denver Nuggets to get back in this series. Yes, they might win a game, but I'm saying get back to the point where it's a game 7. But if it's a game 7, I put my whole bank account on LeBron James.
I honestly would too. And I think something else to talk about is that the Lakers have a good 1-2 punch down low. Dwight Howard isn't the best in the world, but he's going to take up some space in the middle. You have Anthony Davis, who is a top 10 player in this league. And I said it before. I said if the Nuggets win, it's going to be a really interesting post matchup and Jokic and Anthony Davis. And I think we saw that last night. Jokic really struggled down low because you have one of the best defensive players in the league in Anthony Davis, especially this season down there. He's not going to let Jokic do his thing 9 times out of 10. So the Nuggets really have to figure out how to kind of spread the ball a lot more. You're going to see, I think, Nikolai struggle a lot, and I think that has to go in props to Anthony Davis along with the 1-2 punch and Dwight Howard. Now, once again, Jamal Murray, he's your point guard, but you got to spread the ball around a little bit more. I think the Nuggets will adjust, but like I've said before, I'm taking the Lakers to go to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it'd be a sweep, but Anthony Davis had 37 points, 4 assists, and 10 boards. Brown only had 15 points and 12 assists, but he had 6 rebounds. But you mentioned Jokic was struggling. It's the size down there. They have JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard at times down in the low. But then you can also put Anthony Davis down low. You can also put LeBron down low if need be. LeBron's still defending. You know Anthony Davis probably should have won Defensive Player of the Year, but that went out to Giannis. And then you have Alex Caruso who can chase down Jamal Murray. I feel like Alex Caruso is like an Energizer Bunny. I don't ever see him just stop and run. You know what I mean? He's just go, 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 go. And then, like you said, you have Rondo. Rondo is one of the smartest players to ever play the game. He's especially coming up in that Celtics series. Celtics life with KG, Paul Pierce, Kendrick Perkins, Ray Allen, all them boys out there, Big Baby Davis. They know how to play basketball, and I feel like that really rubbed off on him. You've seen a lot of backdoor, like alley-oops, where Anthony Davis would spin out off of Jokic and go up for the lob or the dunk. And then, once again, Markieff Morris, ever since they kind of started him the last series, he's kind of been on fire. He had 9 points and, he had assist and a rebound, but the capability of him to be able to knock down shots is like, no one's seen it coming. We were wondering if it's going to be Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma only had 11 points and 4 assists, 4 rebounds, but this Lakers team is on fire, and then another team that's on fire is the Miami Heat, and who would have thought they would have been up 2-0, and I think they might just honestly put it through the Celtics, because apparently now the Celtics are yelling at each other and throwing stuff, and Marcus Smart has to be separated from Jaylen Brown, and meanwhile Miami and Jimmy Butler just kick back, smoking cigars, ready for Game 3.
I think the problem with the Celtics, too, is they really steamrolled through the playoffs, and now they're playing a Miami Heat team who is very good, and they're trying to adjust, and that does cause a lot of frustration, especially if you see that your team is lacking or there's not a lot of effort or whatever it might be. I did like that, Brad Stevens kind of got those guys together, the main guys that were kind of going at each other, and in the hotel room, talk to them at 1 a.m. They're probably tired. They probably wanted to sleep. But, Brad Stevens, being the good coach that he is, he said, we're going to talk about this. We need to talk about this. And they really do, because if you want to beat this Heat team, you can't have teammates going at each other like that. Now, I did pick Miami to win this series. I don't expect them to sweep, but I am very surprised how good they are playing against the Celtics team. I thought it was going to be a very tough series. I said it going into 6 or 7 games. But Miami Heat, they're a huge surprise. I know they've got Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler's going to be good on any team that he's on. But the surrounding parts and how they work together and how, Jimmy Butler it's like leading the troops in a way. It's really cool to see. Now, being a Sixers fan, it kind of burns a little bit because we could have had Jimmy Butler back. That's besides the point. I like this series. I like watching the Miami Heat, and I love watching Jimmy Buckets ball out.
Yeah, Sixers fans, we wish we had Tatum when we said Butler, but at the end of the day, there ain't nothing we can do about it. Things were done. Obviously, if we were in power of the Sixers, we probably would have obviously did something different, but that's, no here, no there. That stuff's in the past. The biggest thing for Boston is that they're blowing leads. In Game 1 against the Heat, they blew a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, and then the other night they blew a 17-point lead. So they're blowing leads, and they're not being able to hold the Miami runs. Miami just gets right back in it. And then Duncan Robinson, he's one of the pure surprises I think I found out about player I found out this NBA season, because he's a pure sniper. He can just catch and shoot. If you play 2K, he has the Hall of Fame catch and shoot badge. Like, he legit gets the ball, goes right in the bucket. Tyler Hero, I didn't know he could rebound like this. I know he could shoot. I know he could put the ball on the floor a little bit, but I see him running toward the basket for those rebounds. And I think they're playing like this because Jimmy is putting that will into them. But the biggest thing is that I don't think Boston has a number one closer. I think we all want it to be Tatum, but he's not being able to close the games out in the fourth quarter. We know we all saw the block by Bam, and then where was he at last night? Or excuse me, the night before in the fourth quarter the other night. He didn't come up and he wasn't knocking down any shots. I saw Marcus Smart put down some buckets and Jaylen Brown, but that's not Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, I like Jason Tatum. He's supposed to be the next superstar up and coming, but once again, he didn't do anything in the fourth quarter. So where's his criticism at?
Now, Jason Tatum, he has to get going in these next 2 games in order for the Celtics to at least pull out one win. I think that we look at Jason Tatum and we saw him in these past 2 series be very good against the Raptors and the Sixers. We do also have to think that he's young. Now, if this was a Sixers player, if this was Ben Simmons, the media would be trashing him, but it's Jason Tatum, so that's not going to happen. That's beside the point. I think in that game 1, he should have gone for the layup. I don't know why he decided to go for a dunk against Bam. I guess he wanted to finish off strong, but in that situation, if you just did a soft layup, 9 times out of 10 that's going in. Bam was already over you. He wasn't going to try and scoop under you and get that layup. Now, I understand you don't want to lose a game off a missed layup. That looks pretty bad. The Heat, though, they're like the Lakers. They're buying into this. They don't have the most talented team on paper. But that goes to show, once again, like I said before about the Clippers, you don't have to have the most talented team on paper. We've seen teams like that have not been good. Kind of go back to the NFL. For example, the 2019 Eagles, who had a great team on paper. The Dallas Cowboys, who always have great teams on paper, but they never show up. This Heat team is kind of the opposite. You look at them at the beginning of the season, you're like, oh, Jimmy Butler's going to a team that's not even going to make the playoffs. And now look at them. It's about the guys you have in that locker room, what they're willing to do. Yes, talent always matters. They have a good coach in Eric Spoelstra. I think the Heat are going to go to the NBA Finals. It's going to be Heat Lakers, and that's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wanted the Celtics to win this series because, Jimmy Butler's in Miami and all the Sixers fans and everything over here in Philadelphia. Like, oh, we should have kept Jimmy. At the end of the day, we should have just kept Jimmy, whether he goes to the finals or if he loses this round, which I highly doubt. Now, we're talking about the NBA. There's still some coaching done. Real quick, do you think Doc Rivers could be fired by the Clippers for blowing that 3-1 lead? I think that would be very, very shocking. I don't know if they'll do it. I think they'll probably give Doc one more year. I don't think if he were to be fired, I doubt he would come to the Sixers. And now we're looking at Mike D'Antoni as an option for the Sixers. And personally, no, I'm good. He doesn't do what we need. He wants to push the ball out all the way back to his Phoenix Sun days. He likes to push the ball and run the court, where we have a point guard who doesn't shoot and then a big man down low, which is not Mike D'Antoni.
Now, Doc Rivers, I don't see him leaving the Lakers just for the pure fact that, yes, he's a coach. Part of the reason of the Clippers losing, blowing that 3-1 lead, is his fault. But you also have to look at the players. You have to look at Kawhi only scoring 14 points at Game 7. And you have to look at how bad Paul George has been this whole entire NBA bubble. I mean, he hasn't shown up. This team has a lot of personalities in that locker room, and Pat Bev and Marcus Morris. Now, as a coach, that's kind of your job to kind of rally them together and say, you can't think you're the best player on this team because you're not. Paul George, you got to show up when Kawhi is not having a good game because you can't center your whole team around one player. I don't think he's going to be fired. I think he gets one more year. But next year, I guess we're going to see what happens with the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, the Sixers, D'Antoni, I agree with you. I'm not very looking forward to him being a coach if that ends up happening. The only thing I do think is good, though, I think he will give Ben Simmons kind of that, not pressure, but make him shoot. I think he could be good for Ben Simmons as a point guard position because I think he could elevate Ben's game in that way. But Joel Embiid's just not that player. They don't push the ball with Joel Embiid. They kind of go slower when Embiid's in. So it's not James Harden. It's not Russell Westbrook. It's Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. He hasn't coached players like that. He likes to play small ball. The Sixers are the exact opposite constructed. So I don't think he's going to be a good option. I don't know who they're going to get, though, because they haven't even given Ty Lue an interview, which we've been talking about constantly. Ty Lue, he's a voice.
Well, he was in the bubble. I don't think he can leave the bubble for an interview and then be able to come back. I mean, I know they've been out the bubble for a few days now, so maybe maybe sometime next week he'll get that interview, possibly. But yeah, I don't think he could just leave the bubble for an interview and come back. And then, because I believe, if they're doing the same thing to players, I think coaches would have to quarantine for like 10 days.
Right, but I have a feeling that everything's going to be virtual anyway. Like, they might just do virtual interviews. I don't know, but I haven't heard a lot of Ty Lue talk except when Brett Brown got fired at first. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know who the Sixers are going to get. There hasn't really been any statements from anybody besides rumors. Some sports radio has been talking.
The only thing I've seen going on with the Sixers lately has been talks about Daryl Morey and then the president of basketball operations from the Indiana Pacers. That's the only thing I've seen going on. I've seen nothing about coaches. But, of course, it's the offseason, and I saw another Ben Simmons video.
Yeah, Ben Simmons, he said that he doesn't deserve a vacation. He posted on his Instagram story. He was in the gym working out. That's great. Show me on the court what you can do. I'm tired of seeing you lifting some weights. I don't know what the Sixers are going to do. I think it's going to be longer than a lot of us think. I think as Philadelphia fans, you're not patient anyway. You want it now. Hopefully the Sixers, maybe this is their time. They're really taking a good look at who they want. And I'm hoping that they can get somebody that pushes this team forward. Now, some other rumors that I saw, Drew Holiday and Lou Williams, apparently the Sixers are looking at them. Both former Sixers and both Elton Brand's teammates back in the day, quote unquote. But I think it would be good to have Lou Williams off the bench. You would probably have to give up a lot for him. I see you have to give up Matisse Thybulle probably. I think you would definitely have to get rid of him. I don't know if I want to do that. Now, Drew Holiday, I also don't think he would be a starter, especially with Ben Simmons. I think he would be off the bench. It's who you have to give up. I don't think that the Los Angeles Clippers want Al Horford or Tobias Harris back. So I don't know who you would have to give up. The Pelicans, I don't know who they would want. Maybe you could get rid of Al Horford. I doubt it. So those are just rumors. I don't know how true they really are, but that's something I did see scrolling on Twitter yesterday.
I did see them rumors going on. I would be interested in Drew Holiday more than Lou Williams. I think Drew Holiday is a very underrated player. I think ever since he went to New Orleans, I feel like he's been under the scope. I feel like if he were to be on the Sixers now, I definitely think he would be an all-star. It's, honestly horrible that he has yet to be an all-star. I understand he plays in technically the West, so they're very guard-heavy. Drew Holiday and Ben Simmons, I feel like it could work because Drew Holiday, yes, he could play with the ball in his hands, but then he can also play off ball and he can shoot, and that's what we need. I would think it would have to be a 3-team deal because they have to get money right. Once again, Al Horford, you would have to go out the door. I don't know where you would go, but you have to get out of here. You know what I mean? You can go, but you can't stay here. That's basically it.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. You can go, but you can't stay here. Lou Williams, nice to have that nice six-man off the bench, but if they keep Trey Burks, we're okay. Alec Burks, we're okay. If we can keep him, then we don't need Lou Will. He may not be to the Lou Will, level, but I would take him over getting Lou Will and having to trade possibly Matisse. I don't trade Matisse. I keep him because he's a perfect 3-and-D. He's a player that can work on his shot and he can always defend because once again, you can't teach defense. You just have to have it, and him and Ben Simmons being able to lock down, and then if you get Drew Holiday can lock down. So that's 3 positions on the court that you can lock down that favor towards guards, and then you have Embiid down in the paint who can block the rim and protect the rim all day.
Now, I think Drew Holiday is the more realistic option if you're talking about trade deals because you think about the Pelicans, maybe they could use a Josh Richardson because I think that's where Drew Holiday would play if he were to start. Maybe they would even take a guy like Tobias Harris because you need to get rid of that contract. Right.
That 21st overall pick would have to go definitely.
So maybe you get that 21st pick and Josh Richardson for Drew Holiday. I don't really see you giving up a lot of pieces for him because Drew Holiday is not necessarily a superstar. I want one of these contracts out, though. I will do anything to get one of the Tobias Harris or Al Horford's contracts out. I'd rather get rid of Al just because he's older now. He doesn't really fit in with the Sixers team. But if you want to get players and you want to get pieces, you need to put that money somewhere else. I don't know how Elton Brand is possibly going to do that, but maybe this Drew Holiday deal could happen. Now, I am a huge Lou Williams fan. I was ever since he was on the Sixers. They actually played together, Drew Holiday and Lou Williams, which I'm sure a lot of Sixers fans know.
Traded off because of the whole process.
Right. And I thought that 1-2 punch of Holiday and Lou Williams back in the day, which they were a lot younger, was really good. Now, I would love him on the Sixers just because Alec Burks is good, but you don't really necessarily have a backup ball handler. And I think Lou Williams could be that guy. Now, I don't think Shake Milton is a very good ball handler. I think he's a very decent shooter. I don't think he's a good ball handler. I think the pressure gets to him a little bit too much. You didn't really have anybody to back up Ben Simmons, and we really, really saw that when he got hurt against the Celtics. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Sixers do. Once again, these are just rumors. Who really knows what's going on? They're probably not going to get either of them because that's what usually happens with Philadelphia, but it'll be an interesting offseason for this team.
Another team that's going to have an interesting offseason that will be willing to go into the luxury tax to keep their superstar Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. He wins MVP, and he was the third player to win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year behind Michael Jordan, Hakeem, the Dream Olajuwon. It's surprising that, once again, we were talking about before show that LeBron James only got 16 votes out of 101. Once again, they did only judge before quarantine and before the bubble and before COVID. Honestly, we were all talking about before, we think they should factor in the playoffs. I think that's only fair, but because this is a regular season award, they're not going to factor in the playoffs. Maybe they'll do a little playoff MVP or something like that, maybe. But other than that, Giannis, congratulations, third player to win MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, but I'm sorry, this season was a loss for you. You should have been back in the bubble. You should be here in the Eastern Conference Finals right now. Going against the Celtics, you should be on your way to the finals to face the Lakers, but you're home, and he said, don't call me an MVP until you call me a champion. Well, unfortunately, the only thing I can call you right now is MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Congratulations, but this season was a loss for you.
Now, I talked about this before, a few weeks ago, before this award came out, once the NBA started announcing who won Defensive Player of the Year, sixth man, whatever it might be. I said that Giannis should win MVP based on the regular season for the pure fact that if you take LeBron off of the Lakers, you still have Anthony Davis. If you take Giannis off of the Bucks, you don't have a superstar. And I think that is really the reality of it. Now, I am shocked that LeBron James only got 16 votes. I thought it was a give or take. I thought if either one of these guys got it, I mean, LeBron is putting up insane numbers for being 35 years old. He's really, of course, he's the whole of that Lakers team because he's LeBron James. He's one of the best players in the world. But once Giannis got Defensive Player of the Year, I said, you know what? LeBron has to win MVP because you just need to give Giannis an award. Giannis is no, by any means, Defensive Player of the Year. That's Anthony Davis. But at the end of the day, you have to give the Greek Freak an award. And then LeBron James doesn't win MVP, and I'm sitting here like, what was the point of giving Giannis Defensive Player of the Year? Because he did not deserve that, and I think a lot of people are judging on what happened in this playoffs, and I understand that. Before the bubble, that was a long time ago. It's very hard to remember how the regular season went, but I do think that, Giannis getting eliminated in the second round by the Miami Heat puts a lot of judgment on people that he can't be MVP, he can't win this. Unfortunately, playoffs don't matter after quarantine does not matter for this award. I do think it should have gone to Giannis, but I am very, very shocked, once again, that he won Defensive Player of the Year and that LeBron only got 16 votes. That is absolutely ridiculous. It should have been a much tighter race than that. And, I think LeBron is just going to use this to fuel him going into this Western Conference Finals matchup, and if the Lakers get any further than that.
You remember watching The Last Dance with the Bulls and how Karl Malone won MVP and Jordan did it, and he was like, it was personal for me. Yeah, I think it's personal for LeBron. I don't think he thinks he should have won MVP, but I think he deserved at least more than 16 votes. It's honestly disgraceful that he only got 16 votes. Going back to Giannis winning the Defensive Player of the Year, I've watched a lot of the Lakers games, and I've seen Anthony Davis purely dominate the defensive end. He may not have had it one offensive night, but on defense, he always brings it. And I understand that Giannis is like 7 foot and he's like the Greek freak, and I love Giannis. He's one of my favorite players, but I did not really think he dominates the defensive end like that, how Anthony Davis was for the Lakers. I do think he would have won MVP. I don't think LeBron is really focused on MVPs. I think he's just focused on chips. But, to piggyback off you, he should have got more than 16 votes.
And like I said before, I completely agree with you that Anthony Davis should have easily been Defensive Player of the Year, and I only thought that Giannis got it because LeBron was destined to be MVP, and they had to give him an award, and then this comes out, and I'm like, what was the point of giving Giannis Defensive Player of the Year? LeBron only getting 16 votes is absolutely horrible. He said it made him mad. That's not exactly what he said, but I'm not going to say the other word on this podcast. So I think that the NBA, once again, is underlying greatness. And I saw a tweet out there and it said, LeBron has been so phenomenal for so many years that people don't really appreciate how great he is. And they're not going to until he retires. So I think that, Giannis does deserve it for the regular season purely. It's a regular season award. This is going to fuel LeBron. This is going to hopefully lead him to a chip. And I think that it's going to be good things for James. But going into some other awards, the Sixers, Ben Simmons makes All-NBA third team. Joel Embiid didn't make any. And I put a poll on Instagram and I said, do you think Joel Embiid deserved to get on an All-NBA team? People said no. What are your thoughts on that?
Ben Simmons definitely, I think he deserved All-NBA third team. The thing about Joel Embiid is that I think it's not like the media bashing him or the players. I think it's just the fact that he can be inconsistent. He can put 51 or 59 up against the Atlanta Hawks, but when he has to play the Boston Celtics, he's got like 13 and 12. And it's like, dude, I'd rather have you dominate our rival, the Boston Celtics, rather than the Atlanta Hawks, who I knew who aren't even going to be in the playoffs. Once again, it's a whole motivation thing, and I think that comes down to Brett Brown. I don't think Brett Brown was able to get the best out of Joel Embiid. I think we've seen flashes, but this past season, between the injuries and him being inconsistent and the spacing on the floor and the whole thing, now I don't think he deserved the win in All-NBA this year.
Now, I'm kind of up and down about it. I definitely think that a lot of the conversation is between him and Jokic, and I think that Jokic deserved to be higher than Joel Embiid this season because, once again, the injuries, the inconsistency, the lack of motivation. I think Ben Simmons, for a majority of this year, it's crazy to say because offensively he wasn't where everybody wanted him to be, but defensively he carried this team. So I think that, Joel Embiid, this needs to motivate him. If I was him, I would be mad that I am not on an All-NBA third team. He tries to consider himself one of the best players in this league, and he needs to show up next season mad, fueled. He needs to get better. I personally would have put him on the All-NBA 13 above Rudy Gobert. I think that Embiid was better than Rudy Gobert this season. Now, I understand the injuries. I understand the time of him being out. I think Embiid showed a lot of what he can do, though, in the playoffs. And once again, the All-NBA teams awards are not playoff-based. So I do think he should have been above Rudy Gobert on the All-NBA third team. It would have been very close, though. I can see why Gobert got it. This needs to fuel Joel. I want to see him come back as a monster next season. I cannot see this inconsistency. It's the motivation for him. He can dominate. We've seen it before. We saw it in the playoffs, averaging 30 points a game. He can dominate, but he can't pick and choose when he dominates. He needs to do it every single game, and he needs to have a coach that believes in that and pushes him to do that. So hopefully this will fuel him. The Sixers will get a good coach, and then we can see Joel Embiid dominate as he says he wants to.
Yeah, it's clear that Jokic is, put himself as the number one big man because he's been dominating these playoffs. I mean, just look what he did with the Clippers, and even last night he had a pretty solid game. Even his passing is better. He doesn't turn the ball over as much. He may not be as flashy as Embiid, but he's definitely better than Embiid right now.
Yeah, I think that, overall, if you're looking at what they've done career-wise, now Embiid's a little bit younger, but I think Embiid is a better player just because he is dominant on both sides of the floor. Jokic isn't very good defensively, and especially we're seeing that in this Lakers series, but once again, Jokic is a little bit more consistent. Jokic is a dominant player to give assists to. I mean, I saw a play last night where he literally threw a pass to the opposite corner of where he was, in between players. I'm like, how does this guy do this? This big man is giving his players opportunities, and we don't even see it on our screens. I don't know how other teams see it. Now, Jokic is definitely more consistent offensively. I think Joel Embiid, though, when he dominates, is better offensively in scoring, not an assist by any means, and I think Joel is a much better defender. So overall, I would take Embiid as my center, but then again, Jokic comes out to play every night, Joel doesn't. So it's the motivating factor. This season, I definitely think Jokic was better, and if Joel Embiid can just get out of his head and be motivated, I don't understand, dude. You say you want to be the most dominant player in the NBA, and you're not showing it. I don't care if you score 45 points against the Atlanta Hawks. It's the Atlanta Hawks. I need you to come out here to be the best on your team. I understand this team was horribly constructed this year. I get it. You didn't have as many opportunities. But let's see about 2020, 2021 season, who the Sixers get as a coach. If they have a good one, I just don't want any more excuses. I'm tired of the excuses by Joel Embiid. If you want to be dominant, do it. If you don't, then you're not going to be the best player that you want to be.
Yeah, he states that he wants to be one of the greatest players of all time, but you're not looking at it right now, and I'm sick and tired of just like you. I'm tired of seeing you eating Chick-fil-A and Wendy's on the court on National Burger Day while you're getting taped up. I'm tired of you always crying for foul calls. I'm tired of you when you do get the rebound, you bring the ball down low, then you get stripped, and the next thing you know, it's another turnover. I'm tired of you always getting banged up. Can you come in? Can you train this offseason? This isn't a regular offseason. We all know that 2020 is such an off year with everything that's happening. But for NBA players, this is not a regular offseason. They're looking at starting the NBA around Christmas time, like late November, Christmas time. So, and it's already September. It's almost October now. So you don't have that much time. You should have left the bubble. You should have just kept training. Now, going back to the All-NBA teams, you have Giannis. This is the first team All-NBA. You have Giannis, LeBron, James Harden, Anthony Davis, and Luka. Do you have any players that you think should have dropped down? Any players that should have been first team? I'm personally liking it. I'm happy to see Luka in there, honestly.
No, I definitely like that, and I'm glad that they weren't like, oh, we can't have two Lakers on the All-NBA first team, because Anthony Davis deserves that. Anthony Davis has shown you all season, I have one of the best players in the world on my team, but I'm still going to put up 40 points. And if I'm not having a good offensive night, I'm going to lock down on defense. I'm glad to see Anthony Davis finally getting the respect that he deserves. Of course, LeBron James is having an outstanding year. Giannis, through the regular season, was very good. Luka, definitely. I think that Luka is showing a lot of what he can do only at 21 years old. And James Harden's just always going to be there because of his stats. He's a 45-point scorer. He can get many assists. He's not a very good team player for, I think, the Houston Rockets right now. The Rockets are always disappointing in the playoffs. They generally have a good regular season, but a lot of these awards are based off stats, and when you look at James Harden, you can't not put him there.
Then we go to the All-NBA second team. You have Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Jokic, Damian Lillard, and people probably wouldn't even thought about this, but Chris Paul.
I like Chris Paul in there, honestly. I think OKC was a team that a lot of people looked at that was not going to be good this year, and they made the playoffs, and they made a good run. I like Chris Paul there. Now, a lot of people are disappointed in Siakam, and I understand because he was invisible during the Celtics series.
He was supposed to be the Batman now.
Right, without Kawhi. And I think a lot of people expected that because last year he improved tremendously, and he was very good in the playoffs. He had a decent regular season, though. The Raptors were very good during the regular season. A lot of the reason why Nick Nurse got Coach of the Year. So I think that, once again, the regular season before the bubble, a lot of people forget what happened, and a lot of people are making the judgment off the playoffs and what happened. So, I think Pascal Siakam does deserve to be there. A little bit disappointed on what he did in the playoffs, but once again, it's a regular season award. So I think that he is good on the All-NBA second team.
Yeah, for Pascal Siakam, I think it's different when you are the Robin to Kawhi's Batman, and now you're Batman, and now honestly, I don't think they even have a Robin. I mean, I would think the Robin would probably be Fred VanVleet or Lowry. Either one, but neither of them touch Kawhi in any aspect of being an NBA player. So when Pascal Siakam was kind of forced to do quote, the big boy job of leading the NBA team, I think he kind of shrunk and he kind of shriveled and he wasn't used to it, but maybe this offseason, depending on what they do, if they get another key player or anything like that, we'll see what they do, and hopefully he takes the experience that he took from the regular season, the bubble regular season, and then the bubble playoffs. I was not putting any shame towards Chris Paul. I just think a lot of people didn't expect him to be there. I didn't, honestly. If I'm talking from the beginning of the season, I didn't. I think a lot of people just expected him that when he got to Oklahoma City, I think they just expected him to just want to pack up his bags and want to go to a different team. But he led that team to, a great run. They got the 5th seed in the West. They almost knocked the Rockets out. I mean, I know the Rockets got obliterated by the Lakers, but that would have been the best. I wanted the Thunder to win that series, no doubt, because I felt like the Rockets did Chris Paul dirty. But that's neither here nor there. The third NBA team goes by Ben Simmons, Russell Westbrook, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, and Rudy Gobert. The only player that I kind of question is Russell Westbrook. I understand that him and Harden during the regular season were pretty good and all this and yada, yada, yada. But, I don't know. Russell Westbrook, I feel like he's been the same player for years. I feel like he's 100% pedal to the metal, and, he hasn't been able to have a consistent jumper and probably any aspect of his career. He doesn't shoot threes at all any well. He shoots mid-range okay, but his game is purely just get to the basket and push the ball. But we seen it in the playoffs. He's pushing the ball. He's careless turnovers. You know, he was supposed to exceed expectations and try to get the Rockets over the hump, but once again, they're back home. I'm happy to see Jimmy Butler on there, Jason Tatum. That's not a surprise. Rudy Gobert, he was almost Defensive Player of the Year. And then Ben Simmons, you know, you said earlier, his offensive game may have not been the best, but his pure defense could get him all NBA third team no matter what.
Definitely. And we root for the Sixers. We're from South Jersey near Philadelphia, but all bias aside, I definitely do think that Ben Simmons should have gotten that award. I think that Russell Westbrook, not football, Kayla. I think that Russell Westbrook does deserve it. I think it's, we looked at him in the playoffs, and that's really the last thing we saw. Wasn't very impressed, but I think he was a very good player during the regular season. Now, other people that I'm surprised didn't get this award, I don't really know where you would throw them in.
Say his name.
Oh, gosh, I don't know. We're talking about the same person. I would say either Devin Booker or Bradley Beal, honestly.
Beal. I would have had Bradley Beal over Russell Westbrook. Pure alone, because before the bubble even happened, this man was on fire, dropping back-to-back 50-point games, literally leading his team to a push. You know what I mean? It's not like he was just like putting up numbers and they were just losing games. He was literally pushing them into the playoffs, and then the bubble happened and all that. They just shut him down. But Bradley Beal, I would have had Bradley Beal over Russell Westbrook. Not Devin Booker, because Devin Booker was very hot in the bubble. I'm sorry, but I can't remember all the way back in February, but I don't think he was that very hot and that very consistent back in February or January before the season ended. But yes, Bradley Beal should have been over Russell Westbrook. Changed my opinion.
Now, I think the problem with Bradley Beal is he's on a Washington Wizards team that's not very good, and I think that could also be a reasoning onto why he wasn't in that position. Mm-hmm. I would take him over Russell Westbrook. I do think now Westbrook got it. He does deserve it in some sort of way, but Bradley Beal is balling out. I understand he's not on a very good team. He's not going to make the playoffs. But in the regular season, if this is a regular season award, then why isn't Bradley Beal getting there? I saw a lot of comments on Twitter and a lot of other players.
He was upset.
Right, a lot of other players in the NBA saying that he did deserve it. Now, Devin Booker, he has been phenomenal, I think, so far on the Phoenix Suns. He's putting up 50-point games all by himself. Now, it's not that he's inconsistent. It's just that he does that against bad teams, which makes a lot of sense because the Phoenix Suns all around are not a very good built team. He did get...
Except in the bubble.
Right. Now, in the bubble, he was very, very phenomenal, and that's, I think, what a lot of people remember. I would have him as honorable mention. I think it's between Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. Very surprised not to see Beal on there, but the NBA at this point, sometimes these awards are just, I don't know.
I think they just do it for the names. I don't think they think that player was possibly having a better season. I think they're like, oh, well, Russell Westbrook's a better name than Bradley Beal. My quick point is that, you saw the two Lakers with Bron and AD, obviously two top five players. But you have the two Rockets and James Harden and Russell Westbrook. You said it earlier. James Harden is going to get that no matter what because he's just a pure bucket. He might not win championships. He may not win playoff games, but he's going to put up points in a regular season. It is a regular season award. But Russell Westbrook, if you take him off the Rockets, they're still going to put up points because they're going to shoot threes and they have James Harden. You take Bradley Beal away from the Washington Wizards.
Trash.
They're horrible. They'll probably get the number one pick. So that's my whole point. I don't think that Bradley Beal is getting the respect that he deserves, and I hope he comes back motivated and ready to come back next season with his teammate John Wall, who's been injured and out for the past seasons. I've seen a few clips of him on Twitter. I think he's getting healthy. He's looking good. So I'm not saying the Wizards are going to win the championship, but I think they can make a playoff push next season.
I really wish that Bradley Beal would go on a better team, a.k.a. the Sixers. Could you imagine Bradley Beal on the Sixers? I would be so happy. But, he signed that max deal. I think with John Wall, maybe they can get something going in Washington. Maybe they can pick up that AC and get into the playoffs. Who really knows? But kind of switching over to leagues real quick, the MLB. Now, watching the Philadelphia Phillies has been a little bit painful. Not going to lie, their bullpen is still garbage, but they're getting hot right now. They're still in the hunt for the playoffs, and Bryce Harper is on a hot streak. He was in a little bit of a slump, but he's showing why he's the best player on this team. Last night, he was phenomenal. He's been very good in these past few games against the Blue Jays in that series. I think if Bryce Harper can stay hot, that they are going to go into the playoffs.
Now, do you think he's going to have to carry the absolute team on his back to make the push, or you think the offense? Because I've seen games where I know it's horrible. We're scoring 7 runs and then we're losing 10-7. I understand that. But the offense overall has been very, very well. They're absolutely getting destroyed. Like, they're destroying pitches and they're all overall looking very well. But I don't know if Harper's going to be able to legit put the team on his back, because we all know the bullpen is so horrible. Matt Klentak deserves to be fired. The Phillies, I feel like they're going to hunt for a playoff spot, but I feel like they're just going to fall short.
Now, I don't think Harper necessarily has to put the whole back on his team, because like you mentioned, they do have a pretty good offense. They have a good lineup. I think Bryce Harper's going to have to be that guy when the bullpen blows the lead, that he's going to have to come back and be clutch and get a double in the gap or get a single to score some runs. I think he's going to have to put that on his back, and necessarily not carrying the whole entire offense, because I don't think he needs to do that. But I think in crunch time that he needs to be that clutch player that we know he can be. I really don't think that the Phillies are going to make the playoffs this season, and that does break my heart because they have such a good offense, I think. But even if they do, this bullpen is not going to hold up. A lot of the times when you get into the postseason, especially in baseball, you rely on the pitching. The pitching is what gets you. We saw it last season in the Washington Nationals. Steven Strasburg got MVP for the World Series. A lot of it has to do with pitching, and I think that makes the difference in the playoffs. The Phillies just do not have that. Their bullpen is terrible. They haven't shown us any promising things. So I just think that, they could squeak into the playoffs, maybe, especially if the Marlins start losing. But either way, I don't think they're going very far because this bullpen just cannot hold up their end of the bargain.
I think the biggest issue is time. I feel like because, obviously because of the Miami Marlins, they kind of messed up the Phillies season in the beginning with the whole COVID thing that they had going on down in Miami. And then, they're 26-25. They're 4 games back. They only have 9 games left because 26 plus 25 is 51. Quick math for you guys. I think they're just out of time. I think they can make a push. They can keep going and going. It's nice to see that they went on that run after Bryce Harper had said it, try to get a little juice. But it's just not in the air. When the Phillies were on fire back in the day, when they're like 08 to 2012, when you knew playoff baseball season was coming, this just doesn't feel it in the air. I don't feel the intensity, maybe because the fans aren't there at Citizens Bank Park and maybe all that, but I just don't feel the media around baseball. I know teams are, looking for the playoffs and they're getting very hot, and some teams are rolling, some teams are falling, but I just feel like baseball in general is kind of taking a back seat between football, basketball, and even hockey, because the Stanley Cup is about to start. So baseball, I think, is a weird season for you. Phillies just finished strong, and let's just try to come back for next spring training.
Yeah, I really do hope they can play in the playoffs because I love watching Bryce Harper. I really like watching this offense do what they do. What I don't like is the bullpen literally blowing every single lead and being the reason that the Phillies lose. I think they have about a 7 ERA in the bullpen. It's absolutely a disgrace. I can't stand it. Now, baseball is like my first love. I always say that. When I was growing up, the Phillies were the best team. And I think that's when I really started to watch baseball. Now, baseball playoffs are my absolute favorite because I truly think that baseball is the one sport that underdogs can really win. The Nationals were a wild card last year, and they won the World Series. It's not like the NBA where, the 8th seed's not really going to win the NBA Finals. That doesn't happen. Now, the NFL, it's kind of in between. You kind of know the best teams that are going to make the Super Bowl. But, again, sometimes it surprises. The Titans beating the Patriots last year. The Titans also beating the Ravens. So you have that in the NBA and now the NFL and now going over to the NHL. For example, the Islanders beat the Flyers. The Islanders were a 6 seed. The Flyers were a 1 seed. They advanced. Now, it's a very different season. There was a big gap because of COVID for some of these sports. For me personally, baseball postseason is my favorite. I know a lot of people probably listening are not going to agree with that. They're going to think I'm crazy, but it'll be really interesting to see. They're still in the regular season. Hopefully the Phillies can make a push, but kind of going into a sport that is completely going to take over this fall, which is the NFL. We're going to start getting into our Week 2 predictions. Now, granted, we already saw Thursday that the Browns beat the Bengals, so we're going from Sunday on.
And as of Week 1, it is a dead tie. We are 8-7 and 8-7 with our picks. We probably missed a couple that we probably should have took, but as of week 1 right now, until whatever, we still have to decide whatever the winner gets. We'll decide that, as the season progresses. But yeah.
Wait, am I winning or are you?
Dead tie, 8 and 7, both of us.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like you had 8 and I don't know.
No. We're both 8 and 7, so we're tied up right now. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a little sad. I thought I was going to get, the lead out. I thought I was going to be the lead guy.
You thought.
I thought wrong.
Thought. But going into week 2, of course, a lot of Sunday 1 p.m. games. First, we have the Giants versus the Bears. We kind of talked about a little of this in our first segment, talking about the NFL, talking about week 1, surprises, whatever it might be. But I'm going to take the Chicago Bears solely on their defensive line. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to get that run game going in Saquon Barkley. I'm going to take Chicago this week.
Yeah, give me the Chicago Bears. They have the better defense, and honestly, they may even have the better offense. I think that they'll be able to, channel their monsters of the midway and shut down Saquon Barkley. So give me the Chicago Bears.
And the second game, Rams versus Eagles. Now, unfortunately, of course, I want to take the Birds, Philadelphia fan, but realistically, I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams. They show me a lot of promising things against the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't think the Eagles are there right now. I think Carson needs a lot of protection, and I just think the Rams are going to run all over them, so I'm taking LA this week.
Here we go again, taking each other's picks. Give me the Rams. I see that defensive line with Aaron Donald once again being issues. I understand that Miles Sanders and Lane Johnson are going to be back, but Philly, it's going to be different. You're playing at home, but not at home. You're not getting the Bird fans all wild up. You're not getting any of that. So just give me the Rams. I think Jalen Ramsey's going to be doing Jalen Ramsey things. Hopefully Wentz can play solid, but I don't like this matchup, honestly. I think the defense is a little weak on the Eagles' part, and once again, I thought the Dallas Cowboys had a good defensive line to go against the Rams' offensive line, but clearly the Rams decided to run the ball down their throats. Give me the Rams.
And I just think that Jalen Ramsey is going to completely shut down all of the wide receivers, which for the Eagles is not a lot. I'm very worried about the Eagles in this game. So LA is taking it. I just hope there's no more injuries for the Birds. Falcons versus Cowboys. Now, I saw a lot of promising things from Dallas. I don't think Atlanta is a very good team. I'm going to take Dallas this week.
You're going to take Dallas at home. Actually, give me the Atlanta Falcons because they were throwing the ball all over the yard. I think that they have a shot against the Cowboys. The defense may not be the best, but I feel like they can score enough points with Matt Ryan, and they're playing inside a dome. I will try to take the underdog in the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow, our first disagreement. Many more to come now, okay?
I also just don't want to vote for Dallas.
I don't either, but I'm trying to see it realistically. Unfortunately, if Dallas wins this week and the Eagles lose, they'll be above us in the division. But I guess we're going to see what happens. They both play at the same time. Next game, Panthers versus Buccaneers. I'm going to take the Bucs. I think this is a game for them where they could really show what they got. The Panthers aren't a very good team, so I think that the Bucs, this is going to be a high-scoring game for them. I think this is a chance for Tom Brady to get that chemistry with his wide receivers, with his tight ends, get the running game to start going. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
Yeah, give me TB12. I picked them last week, but now that they're playing at home, I think they have a better opportunity to come back and play a lot better than what they did. I think they're going to miss Chris Godwin, but I think the Panthers, they kind of gave it up against the Raiders. I took the Raiders to win that game. Miss Santiago, you didn't think I was smart for that pick, but
I didn't, but I was obviously wrong. So
yeah, I got to rub it in a little bit. But yeah, give me the Bucs and give me Tom Brady versus the Panthers.
Next is 49ers versus Jets. I think this is kind of a no-brainer. Yeah. I'm going to take San Francisco. I don't see the Jets pulling this off at all. If they do, I would be extremely shocked.
No Le'Veon, no Jamison Crowder going against that tough 49ers defense. We don't have to go much into it. I think we know that the 49ers should win this game by, I wouldn't even be surprised if it's plus 10 points.
I wouldn't either, but next, Broncos versus Steelers. This is going to be, I think, an interesting game. I'm going to take Pittsburgh, though. I think Big Ben is going to go ball out in this one. The Broncos aren't very good, but I also think they're one of those teams that kind of just surprise you in the NFL. They kind of beat teams like the Steelers, so I think it's going to be a closer game than a lot of people think, but I'm going to go with Big Ben and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, give me the Big Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're playing at home. They got Juju on the outside. I'm excited to see how Benny Snell Jr. plays because I think James Conner isn't going to be very effective because of his sprained ankle. I think the Broncos, they're a very solid team, but I don't think they can match up with Pittsburgh.
And next, going on to more Sunday 1 p.m., the Jaguars versus Titans. I am taking Tennessee. I don't think the Jaguars are a very good team at all. Not that the Titans are the best team, but I think Derrick Henry's going to have a field day, and he's just going to run the ball down Jacksonville's throat.
Yeah, Jacksonville, they shocked me last week by beating the Colts, but honestly, the Tennessee Titans are such a better overall team with Derrick Henry. And even Ryan Tannehill, he may not be the best quarterback, but he's very solid. He knows how to get the correct passes. He doesn't turn the ball over, I think the Tennessee Titans win that game. Jumping over to the NFC North, you have the Lions versus the Packers. Give me the Packers. I don't think the Lions honestly have ever beat the Packers in Lambeau Field when I've ever seen them play the game. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Matt Stafford without Kenny Galladay, and Matt Stafford and the Lions just lost to the Bears because DeAndre Swift dropped a wide-open touchdown that could have won them the game. I think the Lions might keep it close, but give me the Packers.
Oh, no, I'm definitely taking the Packers, and I'm taking them by at least a touchdown, maybe even a touchdown and a field goal. I think that Green Bay is just going to really ball out in this one. I think this is going to get Aaron Rodgers a chance to prove to this organization, not that he has to prove anymore how good he is, but just to really show them what he's got. I am taking Green Bay this week.
Jumping over, we have the Minnesota Vikings versus the Indianapolis Colts. Give me the Minnesota Vikings. They look very well. You have Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins. I don't think that the Colts are honestly playing very well football. They just lost Marlon Mack with an Achilles injury, and their defense doesn't look very well. T.Y. Hilton was also very suspect. I don't think that they can be able to match up. I'm excited to see the Vikings. I think their defense can match up very well versus a very old Phillip Rivers. Even the young Jacksonville Jaguars, who I thought were going to get cremated by the Colts, I thought they were going to be able to pull that game off, but Phillip Rivers was very turning the ball over, kind of what he was doing with the LA Chargers. I think that's very suspect and very scary to watch. If he can get back on track, that's good for them. But the Indianapolis Colts, I think, are going to struggle. The Minnesota Vikings, they're running the ball with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. I was kind of surprised that they're honestly a low-key 1-2 punch. I think that they can honestly kind of run the ball on the Indianapolis Colts, and I'll take the Minnesota Vikings. What about you, Kayla?
I think that I am going to take the Vikings as well. I actually do think, though, that this is going to be a very good matchup. I think that both of these teams, once again, it's kind of like the Giants and Bears. They aren't very good, but I think they're both kind of at the same level. I think the Vikings are a little bit better than the Colts, though. I think Phillip Rivers really hasn't gotten his momentum yet in Indy. I think that, Frank Wright is a great coach, but I shouldn't say great. He's a very good coach, but I just think the Vikings have a more solid team. They have a more solid foundation right now. It is only week 2, so I am going to take Minnesota.
Now we're at our 4:05 p.m. games. We have the Washington football team versus the Arizona Cardinals. Give me the Arizona Cardinals. Honestly, the Washington football team was low-key, kind of lucky to beat the Eagles, even though they came back from 17-0. I think that was just a lot of bad play on the Eagles' part. Meanwhile, the Arizona Cardinals beat the defending NFC Super Bowl, or the defending Super Bowl, what am I trying to say? Defending NFC Super Bowl appearance team. I know that's not how you say it, but that's
NFC champions.
There you go. I kind of like what I said, even though I was kind of rambling, but give me the Arizona Cardinals and D-Hop and Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I think this is another no-brainer. I'm definitely going to take the Arizona Cardinals. They beat the 49ers last week, which I thought was a big surprise. Didn't think it was going to be a close game, but I definitely took San Francisco in week 1. Arizona showed me a lot. I think the duo of Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins is just going to get even better. And I think, honestly, this is going to be a 2-touchdown game. I think Arizona is going to completely walk over the Washington football team. Now, the only thing is that the football team has a decent defensive line. Mm-hmm. They've got Chase Young, so I think they might give Kyler Murray a little bit of a problem, but that's the only reason that I think it could be a closer game. I still think the Cardinals got this one. I mean, I don't know how they could lose.
Jumping down to Houston, Texas, you have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Houston Texans. Give me the Baltimore Ravens, not because Lamar Jackson is so phenomenal. He is very good, but that Ravens defense against Deshaun Watson, I'm not saying it's going to shut him down, but once again, the Texans have no outside weapon, and they also have no offensive line. So give me the Baltimore defense being able to contain Deshaun Watson.
And once again, I think that this is going to be a fun matchup to watch in young quarterbacks with Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson, but Houston just has no help right now. They're really having Watson be out there in a deer in headlights, and I just think the Ravens have a very good team. I think Lamar Jackson has a lot of options. Their defense is good, and the Texans really have nobody besides Deshaun Watson. So I am going to take Baltimore this week. I don't really think this is going to be a good game. I could be wrong, but I just think the Ravens are a much better team. The Texans are going to be this year's disappointment.
Going to AFC West battle. Don't even ask me about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll pick them to win every single week. Don't matter who they play against. They look phenomenal against the Texans week 1. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was phenomenal. So whoever drafted him for fantasy, congratulations to you. And then, of course, you got Patty Mahomes back there slinging a rock. So give me the Chiefs. I think they probably win, honestly, by it could be two or more touchdowns, I think.
They got all those weapons, and they're also playing the Chargers. Yeah. So, I mean, this week is just a given.
The Chargers didn't look very good against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they barely beat the Bengals, so I don't think there's any chance against the Chiefs.
No, and once, the Chiefs look so dominant, it feels like we haven't seen them playing forever because they played week 1 on Thursday. So I'm looking forward to see Patty Mahomes. I kind of miss watching him, and it's only been 1 week. This is going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be a very interesting game based on how close the game is, but I think it's going to be fun to watch the Chiefs just completely rample the LA Chargers.
Then we have our Sunday night game. Give me the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks have been rolling. Russell Wilson. And you think it's going to be like a very close game. I think it could be a high-scoring but close game. I think it's going to be within at least 3 points. So give me the Seattle Seahawks. I'm interested to see Cam Newton and what he does on the road. I want to see if week 1 was just a flash in the pan or if it's going to be a consistent factor of him playing well.
I'm going to take the Seahawks as well. It's so tough with no fans because it's like you said before, the Seahawks have that 12th man in fans and Seattle doesn't have any this year. So it's like the Patriots would definitely lose if there was fans. I do think it's going to be a close game, but I see this game, the Seattle having control throughout. I just think the Patriots are going to be able to really match up to them scoring-wise. I don't think they're going to win. I take Seattle by a touchdown. I'm excited to see what Cam Newton does, though, in this game because I think it's going to be a testament to really what he can do in this system, what he can do with Bill Belichick. This is a tough game, but I think it's a good test for Cam Newton and the Patriots. I'm taking Seattle this week, but definitely a good Sunday night game.
And then to cap it off Monday night, you have the Las Vegas Raiders opening their stadium. I think they'll be hyped to open it, but honestly, the Saints are a better team with or without a Michael Thomas. I think they will be able to do it. We did see the Raiders give over 30 points to the Carolina Panthers, so I think the Saints and Drew Brees playing indoors, I think they can steamroll the Raiders.
And the Saints just beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Exactly.
I'm going to take New Orleans as well. I think, the Raiders had a good week 1. I don't really see them having the best season. I think this is a really tough matchup for them. I see it being a blowout. I know I might sound crazy of how the Raiders performed week 1, but I do see it being a blowout. The Saints at least by 2 touchdowns. Honestly, I can see that happening. A good Monday night game. I'm excited to see Drew Brees, what he can do. Is Michael Thomas officially out?
They said he didn't practice on Friday. They say he's progressing. I wouldn't play him.
You're facing the Raiders, so yeah. I would say Michael Thomas.
It's the same thing with the Kittle versus Jets. It's week 2. You're trying to get to the Super Bowl. You don't really care about this. It's not that this game doesn't matter, but this game's not even a conference game. It's not even a division game. You shouldn't even play him, I think.
And you should win without him, nevertheless.
Yeah, you definitely should beat the Raiders without him. Going on, we did our predictions earlier before about the NBA season awards. Let's jump over to our NFL season awards, starting with our most valuable player. Who you got this year?
Now, I'm going to go with an obvious one, and then I'm going to go with a hot take. I think Patrick Mahomes, after not winning it last season, I think he's going to be even better this year. We saw it in week 1. Absolute dominance. I think that he has a very good team, and I think he has a great chance of winning MVP this year. Now, a hot take that a lot of people are not going to agree with, Tom Brady. I think that you have to look at him because if he has a really good season in Tampa Bay, not only his age, but he's in a completely different system. A lot of people said, it was the duo of him and Bill Belichick. It wasn't just Tom Brady. So I think if he's able to be very good against all these other teams being on the Bucs, I'm going to, take Tom Brady only if he has a very good regular season. And if he doesn't, I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes. That's my lead guy. The hot take is going to be Tom Brady. Now, I do see Brady struggling a little bit in the regular season and having a really good playoffs. Once again, MVP is a regular season award. So it'll be interesting. But once again, I think if he balls out and gets a really good record, I'm going to take Tom Brady. A hot take. It's going to be Patty Mahomes, but a hot take's Tom Brady. All right, go ahead.
I never thought that Tom Brady would be a hot take. Give me, honestly, put my odds on, give me Russell Wilson. I think he's been very, very underrated. I don't think he's even received MVP votes. I think he gets in a conversation about halfway through the year, but then, of course, someone else decides to elevate their game. You have Lamar, you have Patty Mahomes. Don't get me wrong. I think Patty Mahomes could possibly win it again. But, everyone wants to choose Patty Mahomes, so give me Russell Wilson.
And, I think Russell Wilson is going to have a phenomenal year. The Seahawks finally have a better defense. Like you said, last year he was in the conversation as well, early in the year. And then, Lamar Jackson kind of pulled away. So Russell Wilson's definitely a good option. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm also going to go the Seattle route in this one. I'm going to take Jamal Adams. I think that he finally has a good team to play on. He's not in New York anymore. He's excited to be in Seattle, and I think he's really going to transform this defense into something good and to make the Seahawks more of a whole team than they've ever been. So my pick is Jamal Adams. You could also look at Jalen Ramsey on the Rams. I don't think that he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year. I think he may have a good season, but you never know. It could be Jalen Ramsey, but my number one pick is going to be Jamal Adams.
All right, so you're going to go DB. I'm actually going to go D lineman, even though he almost killed a man with a helmet last year. Give me Myles Garrett. He's got paid. He just got paid. He's looking he just had a sack fumble against Joe Burrow. I'll take Myles Garrett in the dog pound. I think he's very, very, very destructive on the defensive line, offensive line. I don't know many offensive line that can block him, so give me Myles Garrett in the Cleveland Browns. I never thought I'd vote for him after what he did to Mason Rudolph, but I'll take Myles Garrett.
Now, for Offensive Player of the Year, I feel like you can so many directions on this one because there's just a lot of dominant positions this year, I feel like, in running back and quarterback and wide receiver. Although, this is so hard. Let me think real quick. I think I'm going to take DeAndre Hopkins because he's in a new system. And Kyler Murray, I think, is going to have a very decent year. And I think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be the reason why. I think that, the Cardinals haven't been a good team in years. He was on a good team in the Texans, but I think he's going to make this Cardinals team from bad to pretty good. I think they could make the playoffs. They're in a very tough division in the NFC West. So I think that he is just going to transform this team, and I'm going to take D-Hop for this year.
Another shot in the dark, because I kind of like doing that, honestly. I'll take Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're going to run the ball, and run the ball. He was very dominant at the end of his rookie year. He came out week one very hot. So I'll take Josh Jacobs, and hopefully, I would like to see a little bit of running back love. I thought about taking D-Hop, but obviously I'm not trying to piggyback off of you. So give me Josh Jacobs and the Vegas Raiders.
Now, for Rookie of the Year, this one's a little bit tough because I think that there are a lot of good rookies this year. I like Chase Young on the Washington football team. I know that Washington's not a very good team, and they're not going to be a good team this year. But I think that defensively and their line are really going to be some problems for teams. I think that's going to only be the problem that any other team's going to face against Washington. But I do think that Chase Young, I'm going to take him as a little bit of an underrated pick.
I honestly messed you up. I didn't put that in the notes. I just have Rookie of the Year. There is a Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Duh. I'm going to take Chase Young then, obviously.
Same. I was looking, and then I was like, wait, she's talking about Chase Young for offense or defense or overall? Yeah, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think Chase Young's piggyback off you. I mean, you saw what he did against the Eagles. I think he can purely dominate any position on the D line. I think he can dominate any offensive lineman. Yeah, so definitely give me Chase Young, and I'm guessing you're going to go Chase Young too then.
Yes, and then for Offensive Rookie of the Year,
I think it's a clear runaway, honestly.
I'm thinking Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, same thing.
Now, I think Joe Burrow honestly could get that just because he's a quarterback.
He could get a couple votes, but
I think
he's not going to have the effect that Edwards is going to have.
No, I mean, we talked about this last week. Edwards-Helaire is really, I think, the best thing to happen to the Chiefs in that position since Kareem Hunt. And I think he's going to transform this offense to be even better, which sounds crazy, but even better than they were last season. So I think Edwards-Helaire is going to have a very good year. I think he's going to get a lot of touches for this team, and he's on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are probably going to be the best team in the league this year. So I think Edwards-Helaire is going to win by a landslide. Second, I would have Joe Burrow, but I don't think he's going to win it.
Going on to our Coach of the Year. This is a pick that is very, when you want to pick these coaches of the years, you kind of want to go with guys that haven't done anything and then they get some type of success. So I'm going Cliff Kingsbury of the Arizona Cardinals. I think they were one of my sleeper teams. I think he can make a playoff push, and I think comparing what they've been the past few years, even though last year I think they were 8-7-1, I think this year they take the jump and get into the playoffs.
Oh, this is really hard because there's a lot of teams that this year I think are better than they have been in previous year. This might be a stretch, but I'm going to take Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
Now, we know he's not a new coach, but I think the Steelers have been bad for a few years, and now they have Big Ben back.
They ain't been bad.
You're
They've
right.
been 500. They ain't never had a losing season under Mike Tomlin.
No.
Come on now.
And I think that, a lot of the Steelers' success, I think, is going to come from Big Ben being healthy, but I also think that's going to give confidence to Mike Tomlin, and I think he's going to be able to make this team a playoff team with Roethlisberger in his corner. So I'm going to take him. Now, that's kind of a pick that a lot of people aren't going to see coming, but it'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do. I really want them to make the playoffs this year. I think Big Ben needs one more run. He's getting older now, so you know what? Why not take him?
I love that pick, Pittsburgh homer, from growing up. I love that pick. Jumping on to the comeback player of the year. It's always hard to pick these players because you always forget who was hurt and who missed a lot of time the year before. But you have Superman up in New England. Give me Cam Newton. I think he's going to have a very good year this year. So give me Cam Newton. I think he's going to win comeback player of the year.
Now I'm also going to go on the Steelers route. I'm not a Steelers fan, everyone, I promise. But
it's okay to be a Pennsylvania fan. That's okay.
I'm going to take Big Ben. I mean, he's been injured, and I think that he needs to bring the Steelers team where they can be. And I think he's going to make one more run to the playoffs before he's done. I don't necessarily think he'll be done next season. That's not what I'm saying. I just think he's getting older now. He's had a history of injuries. So I think this year, the duo of him and Mike Tomlin, they're going to do some good things. They're not going to be Super Bowl champions. I think they can make a playoff push. So I'm going to take Big Ben as comeback player of the year.
I respect that. I respect it a lot. So as we start to wind down, we're about to get into our Jersey Minute. So go ahead and get your phone ready, Kayla, and let's see what you got for your Jersey Minute.
All right. So let's start. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to start with the NBA MVP award. I thought that Giannis should have gotten it beginning of the season, but come on, NBA, how are you going to give LeBron James only 16 votes? He is one of the best players ever to play this game. He's 35 years old and putting up crazy numbers. 16 out of 101 is absolutely ridiculous. Also, Anthony Davis should have won Defensive Player of the Year if Giannis was shoo-in for MVP. I really don't understand what happened with that. Now, the NFL, Philadelphia, please get it together. You look terrible. Week 1 was absolutely awful. You don't want the Dallas Cowboys to win this division. Right now, the Washington football team is leading everybody. So, I think that the Eagles are going to be a lost cause this season. I said that before. I don't think they're going to be very good. But please don't make Sundays so stressful for me as a Philadelphia fan. Philadelphia Phillies, you know what? You might be able to have a playoff push. It might be good. It might be bad. But let's try and get hot. Let's try and get into the playoffs, whatever it might be. And I'm going to take, for the last hot take of the NBA, I'm going to take the Lakers in 5 games. I only think Denver's going to win 1. I know that sounds crazy because of what Denver's done in this playoff run. I just think the Lakers are a much better team. I think the Heat are also going to win in 5. I don't see the Celtics getting swept. It's going to be Lakers and Heat in the NBA Finals. And LeBron James is going to win Finals MVP. Was that a minute? I probably went over.
Yeah, you can go over. You can
Okay.
go over. It's okay.
Sorry.
My Jersey Minute is starting with, yes, the GOAT and LeBron James, old GOAT James. You should be mad that you only got 16 first place votes, because you deserve more than that. I'm not saying you deserved 100, but you should have won MVP. I don't think you should have won MVP, but I don't think you deserve only 16 votes. Because if you only got 16 votes, then what did James Harden be able to get? Only like 1 or 2? So that's kind of frustrating. LA Lakers. Go ahead and keep continue doing what you're doing. Put your foot on the pedal and just, eat the Nuggets up. Like, what I'm saying? Get some hollandaise sauce or some sweet and sour and just keep thinking and dunking them and keep eating them up and go ahead to the finals. Then you're going to go ahead and win the finals, hopefully against Miami Heat or hopefully against the Celtics, whoever wins. I know we as Sixers fans don't really care, but, I think we all just want to see the LA team win. And then you can get your 4th ring and your 3rd ring with your 4th team, or your fourth ring with your third team, and be the only player to do that also. So also remember about LeBron, remember greatness, and also remember that the Clippers were all bark and no bite. They were the ultimate hype team. They thought they were just going to roll through the playoffs and roll through the regular season and just get to go down LA and get the party up. And nope. I guess you're going to Cancun with Dame Lillard, because if you saw that Twitter beef, they're going right there. And guess what? Paul George is talking all that work. You're getting sent home. Paul George, come at me when you decide to do something in the playoffs and actually do something to elevate your game and elevate your team. Because guess what? I would rather have maybe any other superstar than you, because at least maybe any other superstar will go ahead and die on the court and during the playoff game, and not just give me shots at going up against the backboard. So that's my Jersey minute. I was also a little over, but that Clippers rant, I'm sorry. Everyone picked them to win, and they aren't winning nothing but their couches.
And that was Austin's segment of going at the Los Angeles Clippers' neck. No, I'm just messing. I completely agree. The Clippers, very disappointment. As Sixers fans, the Sixers were very disappointing this year, but I think the LA Clippers won in that department.
They took that
if they win any championship, that's what the most disappointing award. One more thing I want to mention is our BG did pass away. Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away at 87 years old. I believe it was pancreatic cancer.
She's been battling, I was looking at articles today. She had cancer back in 99, came back in 09, came back in, I think, 16, came back in 18, came back in 19. So, I mean, she's been battling cancer, but she was still apparently she was working out and doing a lot of fitness stuff in her 80s. So, respect to her and respect to everything that she did for us and this country.
Right, and I think, it's a very sad thing to see. She 87 years old, it's an older age, but she did so much for being a woman. She has done so much for women in the position that she was. It's really sad to see that she passed away. And, I think we just, as people, as human beings, as U.S. citizens, we need to kind of carry her legacy. Rest in peace, rest in power. I know it doesn't have to do with sports, but I think across the country, it's definitely a devastating loss. And, I pray for her and her family. She was a great woman. She did a lot of things for women around the world. I respect her so much. And, rest in power, like I said before.
So that's going to wrap it up for episode 4 of Scoring with Santiago and Jones. I want you to enjoy your weekend. It's a beautiful day today. You got a nice little breeze, a little hoodie and shorts weather. Go outside and just sit back and relax and enjoy your football Sunday and any other sports you decide to watch in hockey, baseball, football, and or basketball. Make sure you tell someone you love them. You can catch me on all social media platforms at JonesyAustin25. That's JonesyAustin25. Kayla Santiago, I know you got about 3-4 different social media platforms, so go ahead and tell them what you got.
I just don't got the same name for all of them, but my Twitter is Kayla_Santiago1 and my Instagram is K_Santiago1. And I do have another Twitter account, actually, that I'm going to be live tweeting the Eagles game. Going to be doing some pregame and postgame coverage. And I believe that's Kayla M. Santiago 3. I might have to get back to you guys on that. And this episode link will be posted on our social media. Thanks once again for Rachel Amato for helping us out with that. And that's Scoring with Santiago and Jones, all lowercase. And the and is spelled out. So that's exciting. We'll be posting finally episode 4 on our Instagram. So follow that as well. That was pretty good.
That was a great show today. Everyone be safe. Tell someone you love them. We'll catch you on the next time. All right? Bye-bye.